to talk to you today about inflation, or general rise in the price level across the entire economy. So we've all heard Grandma tell us that things used to cost this and that amount. Candy bar was a penny, movie ticket was 5 cents, whatever. Well, Grandma was the unwitting presenter to us of the topic of inflation. Probably one of the first ones you ever heard, maybe your dad, your mom, whatever. Prices seem to rise over time. We've all noticed it. That's called inflation. Inflation has a number of causes. It's kind of tricky pinning them down exactly what causes it, but there's a few general causes that economists broadly agree on, and I'm going to go over those with you today. Some of them are short run, some of them are long run. I'm going to separate them in those two categories for you just so it's easier and you know kind of what to expect and look for. Implications, is it a good or a bad thing? It really depends. On an economy-wide scale, it's different than on an individual scale, and I'll tell you about that as well. And then there's different things you should do about inflation. You should care about it, and you should take care to make preparations for it if you notice that things are happening that might cause inflation in the future. It can help your bank account a lot. All right, so first off, short definition, basic general rise in economy-wide prices. Economy-wide could mean local economy, statewide economy, nationwide economy, global economy. Doesn't matter. Just a rise in economy-wide prices, whatever economy you're talking about. Short-run causes are basically things that you can't really do anything about, and usually you can't foresee them coming. It's just kind of shocks, they like to call them. And that basically means before the economy has time to adjust and pick up production, pick up your wages, there's nothing you can really do about it. Demand pull is the first type, and that basically means you have more money to spend, you want to spend the money you have more, or somebody gives you a way to make it easier for you to spend more money. Credit cards. Imagine if all the credit cards went away today. People would spend a lot less for the next couple of weeks, right? Eventually things would catch up. That's why it's a short-run cause. But for the time being, spending would go down, and that would bring inflation down, actually. So that's a demand pull. The other one is cost push. Key commodity, let's say oil, goes up in price. Everything else is going to go up in price too. This happened in the 1970s. OPEC, which is basically a bunch of Middle Eastern countries that control a gigantic portion of the world's oil, decided to cut oil supplies to the U.S. So our oil supplies went way down, oil prices went way up, and so did everything else in the economy. Again, that's not something you can really control or foresee coming all the time. But there's all these short-run causes. The long-run cause, though, that most economists broadly agree on is going to be the money supply. However much money there is in the economy basically determines the price level. And to illustrate that, I have a pretty simple example involving a paperclip and some money. All right. You're the only person in the economy. I'm the only producer in the economy. You want this paperclip very badly. You have $1. You will spend all the money you have on that paperclip. So you're going to give me $1, right?
Yeah.
Let's say me, the Federal Reserve, I'll give you $2 now. Same situation. How much are you going to spend on it? $2. So I increase the money supply, you spent more money on the good in the economy. That's inflation. That's basically how it happens over the long run. And it's kind of something that most economists, except for some wackos out there, agree on. By the way, that's a graph showing money supply and inflation. It's done by Robert Lucas. He won the Nobel Prize in Economics for work in monetary economics. So, okay. Implications. What does inflation do to you? Well, it makes your paycheck smaller, basically. Prices go up. You have the same amount of money. Wages take a while to catch up to inflation. So when prices go up drastically, you're going to have the same money to spend on goods that cost a lot more. So it's bad for you, at least if you're not anticipating it. You can see here the small ones available. Governments sometimes throughout history have printed money to pay for bills. This basically causes what's called an inflation tax. It's an indirect tax, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about. But when government uses money printing to pay for its bills, it raises prices on you and allows them to pay back their money in the future with money that's worth less. So it's an implicit tax, an indirect tax, something you don't notice, but something you should think about. Not good for your bank account, once again. So what should you do about inflation? Is it out of your control? Absolutely. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. But there are ways you can cope with it if you're careful and you're watching what's going on around you. Inflation averages 2 to 3% a year in the past 2 decades. I have some data on that. I got it from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it goes up and down for a while, in the 30s and then in the 70s again. I kind of just canceled that out and did the last 2 decades because it's been really stable for the last 2 decades. And that's basically what it is. You can expect it, is what I'm trying to get at there. You want your wages to keep up with it. A lot of jobs will have cost of living raises built into the contract. UCCS does that with most of its employees. Most state institutions do, although not so much during a recession, unfortunately. So you want to try to find a job that builds those in for you, or is very flexible with you getting raises, because that way you can work hard to get your raises and keep up with inflation as best you can. Okay, and then another thing you can do is kind of watch the policy. That takes a little more thinking. You're going to have to read the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, but basically if you see that Bernanke wants to raise the interest rate, that's going to bring inflation down. So you can adjust that way. That's good for you. That's not a bad thing. If he's going to lower the interest rate, that's going to raise inflation. And the interest rate right now is about 0.25%. It's close to 0. It's been that way for a while. All else equal, you can expect inflation in the future to be better than average. So, best thing to do to kind of heed that off is save a little bit right now so that you can compensate yourself for the higher prices in the future. That's Ben Bernanke cutting the interest rates. So, he's the Federal Reserve Chairman, by the way. Federal Reserve controls our money supply, and Ben Bernanke is the head guy. So when he wants to cut the interest rate, it gets cut. Inflation goes up. Inflation's never going to end. Always happens. We might as well get used to it. Grandma was used to it. It's caused by things out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can cope with it as long as you're making sure you have your cost of living raises built in the contract, or making sure you work hard enough to get your raises so that your bank account stays up with inflation and you're not experiencing any deleterious effects from government printing money to pay off its bills. And save, always have a stockpile of money just in case some oil embargo happens and shocks the economy into a large inflation for a while. Sometimes that's something the Federal Reserve and Ben Bernanke can't really control. And if you don't have any savings built up, you're kind of out of luck. So saving is good.